Lauren Hahn, one of our investigative reporters, was leading the charge on this, and Daniel, I think you want to start off first.
Yeah, so this is a big story that a lot of people have already talked about, but we did our own investigation, so here's what we have. Heartlands Media has been working for the last month on its investigation of Jordan Chariton and Truth Against the Machine. I want to be entirely transparent with our listeners and our viewers with the context of this investigation and our connections to the parties involved. We have a history with Jordan Chariton, Truth Against the Machine, and Christian, who wrote the Huffington Post articles. Daniel Lupker and Kit Cabello shadowed Jordan Chariton in East Chicago in August of 2016 after meeting him at a TYT meetup. I, Daniel, have done paid work for Jordan twice. First in January of 2016, covering Flint and East Chicago. The second time in January of 2017, covering water toxicity in East Chicago with Scott Smith. Myself and Kit know Christian through our work in Wolfpack in 2013 when we passed SJR 42, the amendment using Article 5 to get money out of politics. Lauren is a former member of Truth Against the Machine, leaving before the allegations came out, and knows Christian as her former editor in Truth Against the Machine's Illinois team. Heartlands Media has also interviewed Jordan on our radio station, this station, and let him promote his book, Corporate Con Job. This investigation will not focus on the sexual allegations against Jordan Chariton. We kept Christian out of our investigation to ensure its neutrality. However, we did contact him to clarify articles he wrote. Our coverage focuses on the conduct of Jordan Chariton and how he ran Truth Against the Machine and how he handled its finances. With that said, here are our findings and the timeline.
So we thought it would be important to go over the timeline. The first would be the night in question on May 19th of 2017, and we're going to go through the development of the Truth Against the Machine summit that took place in New York City in November this year, followed by the group chat that was developed that following week leading up to the first publications up until now. So we'll start with the first day of the Truth Against the Machine summit. So this was supposed to be a congregation of Truth Against the Machine reporters to come to New York and work on the future of what the organization was going to be. It was considered to rename it as Fight News, but essentially the reporters would bring their research and they would sign up for their one-on-one spots and have a live stream with Jordan for their research. And on the outside, aside from the one-on-one live streams, there were two locations for the reporters to reside. The first place was in Jordan's apartment in Manhattan, and then as more reporters came in, there was a designated Airbnb location that was fit for 4 people, and I believe that it went up to 5 that were just crashing on air mattresses, couches, but essentially ended up having to fend for themselves as far as food, toiletries, and whatnot, whereas the members that were staying at Jordan's apartment had access to the TATM funds, so there was slight uncomfortable positions for the people that were staying in the Airbnb as opposed to Jordan's apartment.
And this took place on November 10th. What's important to mention is that it's mainly the editors and Jordan. You know, there are a few of the journalists, but it was mainly the editors and Jordan who were allowed to stay with Jordan and had access to Jordan and had more amenities that they didn't have to pay for out of pocket, whereas the Airbnb people, like Lauren said, had to purchase toiletries out of their own pocket.
Yes.
It seems kind of poorly planned, just a little bit, just how, all these reporters were supposed to meet up with Jordan. It doesn't, I don't know, you'd think there'd be more thought into this, because an airplane ticket to go to New York or to meet Jordan probably isn't cheap.
No, and I mean, some people were, again, to reiterate to our viewers, Truth Against the Machine, there's not a designated headquarters. It's a national team. You have reporters, from California, from Flint, Michigan, from Chicago, all over the country. So not all of the members were able to attend this summit, but what it was supposed to be was this professional conference to discuss the future of the organization. And instead, it was confirmed by the people that I've spoken to that it felt more like a frat party atmosphere later on in the evenings.
And we had a lot of people talking about how they were using the donations that were paid to Truth Against the Machine to pay for meals, I think they paid for the plane tickets, which, I think that one you could say would be an acceptable use of funds. But then they were also buying, quote-unquote, expensive wines that people were being made fun of for not being sophisticated enough to taste properly.
Yes.
And then so continuing.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
To taste proper. I mean, look, I get there's a proper way to taste wine, but I don't know. Call me old-fashioned. I'll drink booze the way I want to.
Yeah. So, but then continuing on the 11th.
Yes. So on the 11th, there was an employee that was then fired shortly after her one-on-one session. She was covering and did a lot of research about Puerto Rico, and it was shortly after there was an allegation that she had thrown glass, and because of that they decided to fire her. However, there were many witnesses that counteracted that. They claimed that it was a sleeping device that one of the members needed to use, and a part of it got knocked over and shattered. For whatever reason, it was used as if she had thrown it, so they used that. And then she was promised that after she was fired, the ticket home, which was worth like $400, something like that, that she would be reimbursed, and she was promised by one of the editors, Sam Osser, that she would be reimbursed. I have another reporter that can confirm that she heard that as well, and this person was never reimbursed for that ticket.
Wow.
So then this is when the whole group chat kind of starts forming. You have Z contacting Paula after Paul was fired, and that's when they started talking. That's when this chat started going, and under the suspicion of siding with Paula, she was then also fired, and her articles were moved from the Truth Against the Machine main page.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm real curious about this, though, because in regards to the funds that Truth Against the Machine was getting, what role did TYT play in this, and also how were they getting all like the backing? Like, who else was like actually giving them money, like Truth Against the Machine? I mean, it couldn't just been the donors. I mean,
we're gonna get to that. We just want to get through the timeline in order.
All right.
So what happens on the 12th? We want to go to the 12th.
So on the 12th, the summit was still going on, but at this point, Paula was then contacted by Carly Hammond, the woman that has now led or is leading the sexual assault allegations, and she wanted to explain her story in a safe space amongst friends that she came to know through Truth Against the Machine. So since the prior night around 8 p.m. Saturday, the group at that point was just Z Cohen, one of the co-founders of Truth Against the Machine, and Paula Martinez-Benj. So on Sunday, Carly Hammond was added to it. There's a safe space. It's clear and respectful, but there's that understanding that this is supposed to be confidential in a safe space. So over the next few days, there were more reporters that were added to this, exchanging stories, comparing notes, seeing how to cope with a lot with what they've experienced, what they've witnessed, and a lot of questions that they had. And it looks like one of the members of that group had leaked screenshots of this group chat to Jordan Chariton and his team.
And this is happening on the 16th.
Yes, but we'll get to that too.
Okay.
So at this point, November 16th, Carly has not made any statements whatsoever. She was still on the fence as to whether she even wanted to come out with any allegations. It was just purely the conversation, just telling her story to, or amongst her friends, amongst her TATM or ex-TATM peers. So on the 16th, Jordan then emails Carly Hammond, and this is before his Medium article was published, telling her that she was lying and that these allegations were false, and if Carly were to go public, that he would have to as well, and he would have to defend himself. Well,
and then 2 hours later.
Not even 2 hours later, Carly has yet to make any public statement about this, and Jordan then goes forward and publishes his article on Medium. Sorry.
So then what basically happens is the group chat starts freaking out because they realize in his Medium article that you almost can take the entire group chat that they've been, again, this confidential chat, this private chat amongst themselves, and it's almost a point for point, like if you read a statement someone wrote and then you wrote a couple sentences to an article, then you read another quote, and then you wrote a few more sentences, that's what the article in Medium seemed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I had a few of the reporters that were in the group chat confirm that his article read as if it mirrored almost identically to the points that were made in the group chat. And at this point, none of the group chat shots were public or anything, and as far as the group knew, they didn't even know that Jordan even had access to those conversations. And in his piece, so it sends a panic and confusion to the group chat, and a part of Jordan's Medium post read, "During my encounter with the woman in question, I followed this principle completely. The woman in question and another woman in our group of friends, it was me and 3 other people, began kissing and touching each other in a jacuzzi, so I left them and went to bed. Sometime after that, the man in the group woke me up to show that, said the woman had come to my bed with the other woman. They were having oral sex with one another, and I was asked to participate. I've written statements from the other 2 people in the room confirming that they heard me ask the woman receiving oral sex if she was okay and if I could approach her intimately, and most importantly, heard her consent. During the night we had a few beers, but nobody was drunk."
However, we've been able to confirm both actually through Jordan's own posts of that night, where he was talking about the White Russian he had and something about that these are the Russians that the media should be looking for. He's making some jokes about it, but they were drinking much more heavily than a few beers.
And there was also a photo that was posted from that evening that displayed a table full of alcoholic drinks. So I don't know if those few beers were beers that were later in the evening, but it certainly didn't look like those were the only drinks that they had. And this conflicts with Carly's story as well, where it wasn't just a few drinks. So there are some differences in both of their stories that don't exactly line up.
So, but at this point, once this group chat came out, Christian, who we all now know as the guy who wrote the Huffington Post article, more or less, again, the group is in panic. So he whips out with very little research. He just puts out an article on Huffington Post. And because of the way that this happens, the article is easily picked apart. It doesn't look good. It looks rushed. It doesn't look valid or legitimate. Again, this was everything that we've researched says that this was because everyone was freaked out by this Medium article and felt that they needed to immediately counter the story.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that they were caught off guard. And Christian, in his H.A. Goodman interview, even said it felt as if Jordan was anticipating our response to be like this. And his article came out, the first one came out maybe 3 hours or so after Jordan's first post. And perhaps a couple hours later, around like 8 or so, that was when the second article came out. Now, mind you, the first one that that Christian published did not include Carly's name. He said that he would be doing a follow-up piece. And then in the second one, he did include her identity and quotes and in further detail as to what happened.
And then that's when Jordan has the claim that he can that he has proof of malfeasance, that he has this evidence that he would talk about to everyone. I have this evidence that'll prove that I'm innocent. That evidence turned out to simply be the screen captures from the private group chat and them talking amongst themselves, which we also have access to and look through ourselves.
Yes, and many of the members have even said, that they've thought about just publishing all of it. They're like, we have nothing to hide, but they, at this point, they haven't really been sure if it's that relevant anymore. However, if that's the only proof that they have, and we'll go over some of the other proof that Jordan has mentioned, that they have, that these allegations are false. But that's probably the biggest one, and we have the members of those screenshots even saying, well, we want to be transparent, and if that's the proof that you have, maybe we'll publish it. So,
okay.
But moving on.
Let's move on to the 17th.
Well, we should make a point that Jordan was placed on administrative leave on the 16th.
That's true. That wasn't public to anyone at that point, though. So,
yes.
At the point of the 16th occurring, no one knew that had occurred.
Yes, and in his article, Jordan's article on the 16th, he mentions that he was on administrative leave, and at that point, it wasn't even announced until later that evening that he was. So I thought that was kind of an odd announcement as well.
Okay, so then moving to the 17th, that's when Jordan counters the Huffington Post articles that Christian has done. The Huffington Post pulls down those articles, saying, and quote, "Obviously, we aren't making any statement about the veracity of the claims within. It's simply that we don't have the ability to fact-check and stand behind that sort of original reporting in a contributor post." So that's what Huffington Post said as a response to taking down the articles. They just couldn't prove it one way or the other, and they didn't have the time or whatever to do that. So then Christian condenses both of the articles he's published and re-uploads them on Medium. And at that point, Grayson Parks makes an official statement on Facebook.
Yes, so now we have a lot of the reporters that are starting to publish their own pieces, their own personal statements, whether it's on Facebook, Twitter, or on Medium. But we're starting to see a pattern of a lot of people starting to speak up. And one of those reporters would be Paula Martinez-Benj, and she wrote a Medium article called "The Failure of the Progressive Movement, Examining the White Savior Complex, Sexual Harassment, Rape Culture, and Misogyny." And I quote, "For that live stream," and she's referring to the TATM summit, "I was the only one who actually read the article thoroughly and caught Gomert's name, which reminded me of Gomert's bigoted, racist commentary from the past and his connections to big oil and gas donors. Both of these talking points came from my research that we used during the live stream, and Jordan never credited me for that work during that live stream. Jordan has done this to other reporters in the past that have left TATM and TYT. Jordan has worked with the other journalists by butchering their content to match his cringeworthy cliche phrases, setups in order to create trauma porn clickbait material. I know this for a fact because not only am I a victim of TYT's clickbait material, but I am part of Jordan's white savior complex." And all of these articles, by the way, all of these sources we will be posting later on today, because a lot of these, they go into great length, just all of the sources that we will be mentioning, interviews and whatnot, so but we can get to that later.
I got to just put out, so like behind the scenes, Lauren's put in over 12 hours of just watching interviews that have been public. I mean, there's over 25 documents that have been out. We're going to put all this out, but it's a lot of work to go through.
And Lauren, you've done a fantastic job, being the leader of this investigation. So all credit is due. Lauren Hahn, you are definitely one hell of an investigative reporter.
Well, I think the credit goes to everybody that put their own credibility on the line to try to seek the truth and get it out there, and try to figure out how to move on and how to fix the issues. But Yeah, let's continue.
So at this point is when Jordan's PR manager, and how do you say her last name again?
Zakowski.
Zakowski. She gets involved. She's the one who at one point managed Vox Veritas, who comes in a little bit later, and she does PR work for Jordan, and she's connected with his book, Corporate Con Job.
So she had posted, and we're still on November 17th, she posted on Facebook these screenshots of a private discussion between Z. Cohen and Jordan Chariton. And these messages date from October 20th about how Z. Cohen, again, one of the co-founders of Truth Against the Machine, who also worked with TYT, how she was the ringleader of this group chat that formed after the summit. That didn't form until November 16th. The screenshots show that Z thought Carly was lying and did not believe her, and that she was upset about Jordan firing her. However, after the formation of the group and the additional testimonies of sexual harassment were shared amongst the group, Z had changed her mind and believed Carly was telling the truth. Quoting TATM reporter Colin Hanna's piece on Medium, this means that by claiming Cohen as the ringleader, Chariton is also claiming the conspiracy took place on prior to October 20th. For Chariton's conspiracy narrative to make any sense, the plot would have had to have taken place after November 8th, during the TATM New York City summit. This lines up with Cohen's version of events that she originally believed Hammond was a liar, but later supported her. This is yet another example of Chariton twisting the events to suit his narrative, or he's lying. Now, we also have Z. Cohen's personal statement on Facebook from that day as well. And she says, "I am beyond disgusted by the allegations that have been brought forward by multiple women claiming that my former colleague and one of my closest friends, Jordan Chariton, sexually assaulted and harassed them. To say I didn't see the signs would be a lie. I say I supported the first victim that came forward would also be a lie. When former TATM reporter Carly Hammond approached me about the situation back in May, I refused to believe her. I knew if I chose to stick up for her, my relationship with Jordan would be in jeopardy, which would put my career on the line. Am I disgusted in not coming forward before there were more victims? Yes. But I also know that it's never too late to do what's right. Anyone who claims I am out to ruin Jordan's life doesn't know me. I started TATM with Jordan. That organization is just as much my brainchild as it is his. To see it go down hurts my soul. Almost a year of my life was spent building it from the ground up, and it's time to let go. While I love Jordan and all he did for me, both as a colleague and a friend, that does not excuse what he has done to these women. You are all strong as hell for coming out, and I promise I will be there to walk through the fire with you."
Okay, at this point, just because I'm trying to make sure we get through this entire story, we have 30 minutes. We're going to give you guys as much detail as possible. TATM put out an official statement. We're going to skip that, but we're going to have that posted along with the other sources so you can read that. That was their official statement. And at that point on that day, Lauren then interviewed Griffin, and then Jordan told us at Hardlands Media that Carly's allegations were false.
Right.
And then we want to move to the November 18th is when Christian appears on H.A. Goodman for the first time. And Chelsea appears on Claudia Stauber's show.
Chelsea Lyons.
And Carly plans to be on Tim Black, but then Tim Black cancels after getting a email from Jordan's lawyer.
Yeah, in fact, Tim Black did like an 8-minute, 10-minute video on his YouTube page explaining the situation and the fact that he did reach out to Jordan Chariton first and foremost, because I think if we all look back, they did have a falling out, but then they kind of made up at the People's Summit here that was here in Chicago some time ago. In fact, they did a whole sit-down talk that was on a live stream for TYT Politics, and then he messages Jordan, and I think Jordan said, "Give me your email," and then that's when Tim Black gets an email from Jordan Chariton's lawyer, I believe.
Yes.
So, but then to run to the 19th.
Oh, I just want to say real quick the reason why he received an email.
Right.
Tim Black received an email from Jordan Chariton, right?
From his PR.
Right. Okay.
And the letter included that if Tim Black could possibly become a third party of a conspiracy to defame. So because of this suspicious email, he decided that he wanted to seek legal counseling, and before having on, just to avoid any possible lawsuit or anything else that the email included.
Okay. So now really quickly we're going to jump to the 19th, and then we're going to go on break for 5 minutes. We're going to come back and we're going to finish the rest of what we have along with the financial discoveries that we made.
Okay.
So another prior TATM reporter, for the time being, I will keep her name anonymous, but she also published an article on WordPress, and the title of the post was "The Alleged Sexual Assault Victim Outed by Boss and Then Silenced," and we have a quick quote here from her. "Those rumors were private tales of the victims of a small and recently formed support group comprised of victims and the former employees of Jordan Chariton. The private chat was leaked to Jordan and staff at Truth Against the Machine by an active employee of TATM who gained the trust of others by sharing her own stories of sexual abuse, naming Jordan Chariton as the abuser."
Okay, with that, after the break, we're going to come back to November 20th. There's a few longer days where a lot of things happen, but we're going to go from there. But for now, we're going to jump on to break while we get our guest Wogazardi situated, and we will be right back.